All right, let's get right into it. In early 2026, a new batch of the Epstein files dropped. And while everyone expected the aftershocks to be felt in the US, the real political earthquake, well, that happened thousands of miles away, and it is rocking governments to their very core.
And this quote just nails the absolute irony of this whole situation. I mean, think about it. A dead man's secrets are now genuinely threatening to bring down the British government. A story that started in America is now a full-blown global crisis.
But here's the real puzzle, the one we're going to unpack. How is it possible that the exact same documents can cause a political meltdown in one country but get completely shrugged off as tabloid gossip in another? The answer shows us they're two very different worlds, playing by two very different sets of rules.
So, to really get this, we have to start in the United Kingdom, because that's where this whole thing truly caught fire.
It all kicked off when the U.S. Department of Justice unsealed these new files. And they weren't just old news, okay? They had new details, new connections that sent a shockwave straight across the Atlantic and right into the heart of British politics. It created an instant five-alarm fire for the Prime Minister.
And the crazy part is, the epicenter of this crisis wasn't some huge crime. It was a critical, almost unbelievable error in judgment. It's what's now being called the vetting disaster.
Okay, look at this. This is where it gets really interesting. The UK's Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, literally built his entire political brand on one idea: ethics first. But then he turned around and appointed this guy, Lord Peter Mandelson, a huge political operator, to be the US ambassador, and that one decision put him on a collision course with his own promise.
Now, let's be crystal clear about something. Prime Minister Starmer's name is not in these files. The issue here is what everyone is calling poor political judgment. By putting someone so closely tied to this whole mess into one of the most powerful diplomatic jobs in the world, he basically lit the fuse on a massive crisis of trust in his own leadership.
And this timeline shows you exactly why this was so much more than just a social connection. The most explosive part of this is the allegation that back in 2008, during the global financial meltdown, Mandelson might have been sharing sensitive, market-moving information with Epstein. This just elevates the whole thing from a personal scandal to a potential betrayal of public trust during a worldwide economic emergency.
And the fallout? Oh, it was fast and it was brutal. The Prime Minister's Chief of Staff? Gone. Director of Communications? Resigned. Then the London police launched an official investigation, and now Starmer himself is facing massive pressure to quit, even from his own party. We're watching his government crack apart in real time.
But hold on, this isn't just a UK soap opera. If you look over at Norway, you see a really distinct European echo of the very same crisis. This is a pattern.
I mean, at the exact same time, it's like we're watching the same movie with a different cast in Norway. A former prime minister is being investigated for corruption, a top ambassador has had to resign over her connections, even the royal family got pulled in, with the crown princess having to issue a public apology. The parallels to what's happening in the UK are just impossible to miss.
So, what's the common thread here? It all boils down to one word: perception. In these Western political cultures, you don't actually need a court to find you guilty. Just the perception of bad judgment, the hint of an ethical problem, is enough to kill a political career. It's a totally different rulebook.
And that brings us to the other side of the story. Let's compare this European standard of perception to what happens when proof is the only thing that matters.
You want to talk about a different reaction? How about this? When these same files brought up some big names in India, the government's official response was to call the whole thing trashy ruminations. That's it. No apologies, no investigations, and definitely no resignations.
This table just lays it all out, plain and simple. It's a tale of two completely different political universes. In the UK and Norway, just being associated with this stuff creates a crisis of trust with real immediate consequences. But in India, the official stance is basically, unless you have hard legal proof of a crime, this is all just noise. It's a fascinating clash of cultures, all sparked by one set of documents.
So if the reactions are so wildly different, what is the real story here? Well, it's not actually about the individual names on a list. It's about something much, much bigger.
Forget who was at what party. That's the smokescreen. The real fire here is the exposure of a hidden system, a shadow network that lets people trade access and influence totally outside of the public eye.
They're calling it the dark broker system. And it's exactly what it sounds like.
It's a network that works in the shadows, using social events and friendships to get around the normal, official ways of doing things. This is where the real deals are made, where information gets traded for power, all without any oversight.
And here's the playbook. It's actually pretty simple. Step 1, get close to powerful people, politicians, royals, you name it. Step 2, use parties, trips, and social events to build personal relationships. Step 3, and this is the key, trade that social access for sensitive information. And you do all of this outside of the official channels that are supposed to keep government accountable.
And the end result of all this? It's something they call institutional contamination. Think of it like a virus that infects the entire system. It's not just about one politician being dirty. It's that the public starts to think the whole game is rigged. They lose faith in the institutions themselves. And that kind of trust is incredibly hard to get back. Which, of course, leads us to the final critical question. After all of this, where do we go from here? What are the real, lasting consequences going to be?
Well, for starters, in the UK, this political earthquake could actually lead to a pretty historic outcome. With Starmer's leadership hanging by a thread, the consensus candidate emerging to replace him is Shabana Mahmood. If she takes over, she would become Britain's first-ever Muslim prime minister, a massive political shift born directly out of this scandal.
And that really brings us to the final takeaway. The story isn't just about whether one prime minister keeps his job. The much bigger question is whether the public can ever fully trust a political system that allowed this shadow network of influence to operate at the highest levels for so long. And that is a question that's going to stick around long after these headlines have faded.